and covered up at the highest levels of the federal government. I've seen it over the years, everything's come out. I've only been proven to be correct. In 1973, I said Richard Nixon's a crook, he will not serve out his term. I was correct. I told people the Gulf of Tonkin incident did not happen. I was correct. I've been trying to tell people that there were Iraqis involved in the Murrah federal building bombing in Oklahoma City. I am correct. You all don't know that yet because it hasn't been stated, but I'm correct. My track record is pretty good. Can you say that for the federal government? In fact, I'll put it this way. If the federal government of the United States was an individual, none of us would have anything to do with it. Here are some of the questions that I address in my new book, The Terror Conspiracy, which, by the way, doesn't strictly deal with 9/11, but puts it into a broader context. When you deal narrowly with 9/11, you can get lost in the forest, staring at the trees, wondering about the melting temperature of steel, the size of the hole at the Pentagon, whether the numbers match, what actually happened to Flight 93 in Pennsylvania, and all of that's important, but you can get lost in that. What you have to do is put it into a context, and the big picture starts coming into focus. Did war game exercises confound our normal defense system? The answer is undoubtedly yes. Because, and yet, we didn't know about this for more than a year. For almost a year, it was all over the internet, and yet they were going, no, that's just the internet, yada, 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 okay? Until Richard Clark, the counterterrorism chief, wrote his book, and within 4 or 5 pages said, when he contacted General Myers of NORAD and said, have you got any interceptors in the air? General Myers replied, well, we're in the middle of a war game exercise. Vigilant guardian. Whoops. Then we learned from the tapes that when the FAA contacts NORAD and says, we've got 4 hijacked aircraft, their first response was, is this real world or the exercise? Most of the interceptors were up in Canada. Everybody was out of position. They had false images called inputs on the FAA radar screens indicating false images of airplanes, some of them even indicating hijacked planes. It totally confused our $400 billion defense system. Did the hijackers? No. Yes, they did, because it's been reliably reported. It was even reported in U.S. News and World Report that the day before, Mohammed Atta had sent an electronic message that was intercepted by the NSA, and he said, the match is about to begin. Tomorrow is 0 hour. He didn't say the jihad, he didn't say the attack, he didn't say the operation, he said the match. The games will begin tomorrow, that's when we attack. How could they have known this? We didn't know this. We didn't even know about these games for a year. The 9/11 Commission report only mentioned them in a footnote. How did they know when to launch their attack in coordination with these war game exercises? They could have only known through inside information. That, to me, is a smoking gun to prove that 9/11 was an inside job. Another thing is, we all know that they sent messages in that day's security code saying Air Force One will be next. All right? How did they get those codes? Inside information. And then you have to wonder, since they had said that Air Force One was going to be attacked, which would indicate a direct threat to the president, why did he sit in the classroom for almost 20 minutes reading about that code? And of course he said, well, I didn't want to upset the children. Well, excuse me, how much effort would it have taken to simply stand up and say, hey kids, I'm sorry, but I have to go take care of some presidential business. And walk out. And by the way, when he left, he stopped and spoke to newsmen. He got in his car, drove the same motorcade route that had already been pre-announced back to Air Force One, which took off without any escort. It seems to me that nobody around in royals at a time when you and I couldn't fly. This is during the no-fly zone. This was thoroughly documented. What really happened at the Pentagon? And why did the World Trade Center 7 collapse? Who was behind that suspicious stock sell, okay, that showed foreknowledge? They said, well, we're going to track that, see if it doesn't track those other bin Laden, but it didn't, and you never heard any more about it. Why? Because it tracked back to people connected to our CIA. Was the Afghanistan attack planned well ahead of time? Yes. Were there warnings from other nations? Yes. The biggest lie of all was who would have guessed they would have used airplanes to fly in the building? Okay? The Pentagon had run scenarios based on that very thing. The very morning of 9/11, the National Reconnaissance Office was having a drill that simulated a plane flying into their building. And in 1995, an Al-Qaeda cell was busted in the Philippines, and they recovered the plans of Operation Bojinka, which specifically called to hijack airplanes and crash them into prominent structures, specifically naming the World Trade Center. Why was Halliburton allowed to deal illegally with Iraq during the Clinton administration? Did the CIA create Al-Qaeda? Yes.
Yep.
It goes on and on. You have to put this into the broadest possible context, and you have to understand that 9/11 was what in the jargon is called a false flag operation. We have something within our government called a P2OG. That's the Proactive Preemptive Operations Group. And what is their job? Their job is to pretend to be terrorists and commit terrorist acts to draw other terrorists out with them. Now, how easy is it to formulate a fake terrorist attack? There are accounts coming out of Iraq about, one example, taxi cab driver in Iraq was pulled over at American checkpoint. He's told to go, they take him to to a military base where he's held for an hour or more, and then released. He said, okay, you're free to go. And he said, well, I need my driver's license back. And they said, oh, well, you have to drive over to the police station over there where you can pick it up. On the way, his car breaks down. He pulls into a garage, and the mechanic's examining his car and finds hundreds of pounds of explosives packed in his trunk. You can see what, if he hadn't had this breakdown, you could see what happened. He would have pulled up at the police station, someone would have triggered the explosions, and he's another suicide bomber.
Wow.
False flag operations are right through this whole thing, and it is time that we pull blinders off. It's time you talk to your friends and neighbors, write your congressman, pressure the media to be the watchdogs that they claim to be. In that old movie, just tell them, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it.